I'm pretty sure everybody's kind of in the dark right now. Where were you? How old are you when you seen your mother get beat by the police?
So I was 8.
Okay. And where were you guys at?
We went to a doctor's office. My mother, it was myself and my younger brother at the time, just us two. He was about 2. And she was going to a medical facility to seek treatment. I think she had been in a car accident or something like that. I can't remember. But while we were in this medical facility, you know, my mother decided, because we had been waiting for hours and hours, that she wanted to get her medical records and choose to go to another doctor. And so my mother tells me to leave and go put your brother in the car. I'm going to come meet you. She says, I'm going to get my medical records. She goes up to the woman, who's obviously a white woman. We're in Pantego, Texas. I don't even know if you know where that's at, but a little small town somewhere outside of here. Okay. And I wasn't physically in the room at the time when the conversation transpired, but what she told me is that she asked the woman for her medical records. The woman told her it's going to be 25 cents a copy. She said, I don't have 25 cents a copy. Can you bill me? But I need copies of my medical records right now because I'm going to find another doctor. The woman, you know, didn't want to give them to her for whatever reason, you know, and she said, I'm going to call the cops on you. That's what she told my mom. And my mom was like, well, call the cops. Like, at least they can be more reasonable than you right now. So biggest mistake, black people, the cops don't ever help us, rarely. And the cops get there. I remember seeing the cop pull in. I'm putting my brother in the back seat, and he literally speeds in, pops his car onto the sidewalk like he's coming to an armed robbery. He goes into the office. I mean, it couldn't have been, you know, a few minutes. I see my mother pushing the door open to come out. And then I see the cop literally grab her and body slam her to the ground. And so I take off running to the front door, and I just start screaming, you know, get off my mom, get off my mom. That moment is so vivid in my memory. I don't think I'll ever get that out of my mind, you know. And I just see this cop on top of my mother beating her in the head, and he's got the handcuffs in his hand. So by the time that he gets her up and sits her on the seat, she's bleeding out of one ear. And I remember, well, my mom tells me that I was screaming, I hate cops. Mind you, I'm 8. I'm 8. This is my first encounter with the criminal legal system. You know, as a kid, you're taught that cops are supposed to protect you, but black kids, we learn very, very early that they're not there to protect you. So from that moment, my life changed, and my mom's life changed. And I remember they took us to the police department. My mother was married at the time, my stepfather at the time. We were waiting on him to come pick us up. And I remember seeing the cop, and he literally looked like a pig. I'm sorry. He looked like a pig. His face was pink, and I think he had like one little scratch on his cheek, and he was laughing about it. And I remember hearing them say, like, oh, why didn't anybody tell us that she had mental illness? Why didn't anybody tell us that she was on medication? So I guess she must have been wilding in that holding cell. I don't know. But they ended up charging her with assault and battery of a peace officer. Why they call them peace officers, I will never understand, because they never bring peace. And so from there, she signed the deal, right? They told her, you know, that's the plea deal. Yeah, that's the plea deal. She reached out to the NAACP. Nobody wanted to help her. She reached out to a couple attorneys. Nobody wanted to take her case. Like I said, back then, this was not, you know, we didn't have the Lee Merritts and the Ben Crumps and we didn't have that. It just wasn't, you know, real life back then. And so she ended up taking the plea deal because she didn't want to be sentenced to time, take a chance. Because, I mean, honestly, in Texas, do you have a chance in court if a cop comes and says that you attacked him? There's no cameras, there's no proof, there's nothing. All you have is witness testimony that can change and be swayed. So I don't blame her for what she did. You know, she did what she knew to do and the best that she could do at that time. So they put her on 8 years probation, which is a long ass time to be on probation.
What was her charge?
It was assault and battery of a peace officer. So that's a violent crime.
Even because he had the scratch on his face?
He had the scratch. Yeah. And the thing that with me, what I don't understand, well, I do understand. It makes it systemic with the cops, is that we have we're human, right? So it's our natural defense to defend ourselves. I don't know if you just saw the boy that they tased to death, the man that they tased to death, the
I
teacher.
heard about that.
I couldn't watch the video.
Yeah.
Sean King posted it. I saw on his Instagram. And he had just gotten into a car accident, and his body was,
Convulsing or
yeah, and they tased him to death. And so by her, that scratch, it wasn't because she scratched him trying to harm him. It was because she was trying to defend herself. If I have a full grown man on top of me as a woman, I'm going to try to get you off, regardless of what uniform you have on, right? And so it's human nature to defend ourselves, but to cops and the system, we don't have those rights.
Yeah. Damn. I can't even imagine at 8 years old having to even see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know the anger that I would feel for police officers, it would be burning inside of me, especially if somebody doing this to my mom and I'm like, she is a woman, first of all, and you are a man and you slamming her on the ground. Yeah, I would be pissed. And so you think that incident had any impact on you when you got in trouble with the police?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the 8 years probation, during this time, she got pregnant with my youngest brother. And they put her on, she had to pay fees. And so when she couldn't afford the fees, they incarcerated her at 7 months pregnant. Mind you, she's at the end of her probation, right? She's at like year 6.5, 7. So she goes to report. I don't have the money. I'm a single parent. The judge tells her, well, you've been having relations, so that means you can afford to pay your fees, right? I make it make sense. So at 7 months pregnant, they incarcerate my mother. She's sent off to TDC, which is probably one of the worst prisons in the country. And she gives birth to my youngest brother handcuffed and chained to a bed.